Hi, I'm Madeline H., and this is how I learned about space food.
If you've ever seen astronaut ice cream or beef jerky, these are examples of freeze-dried and dehydrated foods. I've been dehydrating a lot of things lately, and usually they come out super tasty, and my family really loves them. But space food was not always this appealing or tasty. You see, in the early days of space exploration, they didn't have a lot of options or money for food, so most food was squeezed out of aluminum tubes and packages and had no flavor. It was basically just nutrients in a semi-solid liquid form. So, of course, the astronauts started complaining about it. So NASA decided to do something about it. They researched different methods and finally they created their own. Today, they mainly use the methods of thermostabilization, freeze-drying, and dehydrating. What is dehydration? Dehydration is when you take a lot of water and moisture out of food to make it dry. And the main reason NASA does this is because it cuts down on the weight tremendously, because it costs almost $1 million per pound of food to be sent to space. So obviously this was helping cut costs and was letting NASA take a bit of a shortcut. Another method that NASA uses is thermostabilization, and this is basically where you cook the food and then you treat it with a very small amount of radiation, which extends the shelf life for way longer than it would last here on Earth. NASA actually has a minimum shelf life length for their food that goes to space, because if people are going on missions that are lasting anywhere from 18 months to 2 years, that food is going to need to last them a long time. All this talk about NASA, I found out that I could contact NASA. So I typed in my name, told them a little bit about this project, and asked them some questions. They were mainly about space nutrition. I sent them the email, but I didn't get anything back. I tried this from a couple different computers, but it just wasn't working out. I decided to try something else. I kept looking and I found this site called Just Ask Alice. It looked so cool and they had a lot of facts about dehydration. It was actually the University College of Wisconsin, and they had a question box. So I decided to ask them my questions about space nutrition, and I sent that out to them too. I also tried this from a couple different computers, but I did not get any response. I had this cool idea that I would make my own dehydrator so that I could really understand all that went into it and how it worked. But then I couldn't order one of the parts that I needed, so I ended up buying one. This one works super well, and I didn't actually realize how many steps there were in making your own dehydrated foods. So as it turns out, a lot of different dehydrated foods have quite a bit of prep. For instance, I made some blueberries. They didn't actually turn out too well, but you had to boil them in water for 60 seconds and then shock them with ice water in order to crack the skin. Because blueberries are small yet have a lot of water in them, you have to find a way for that water to escape because it also has a skin. You have to do the same thing with grapes. You also, if you would like to be preventative of browning on your apples or your bananas, you have to dip them in a combination of water and lemon juice and then dehydrate them. It was a lot of steps and it took a while, but the results are so good. Most space stations will send their astronauts off with dehydrated foods, and you may be thinking, well, who wants to eat like dehydrated chicken and noodles? Well, a lot of the times now in space stations, they have rehydrators on the spacecraft. So the astronauts can turn the water settings from warm to cold depending on how they would like to eat their meal, and they can actually rehydrate the food. Usually it doesn't turn out as fresh as it would be here on Earth, but it's still much better than we talked about early space food. I had a ton of fun doing this project and I really learned a lot. I love the fact that we got to pick what we wanted to do and we could learn as much as we wanted about it. It was such a great experience and I can't wait to do it again.